The pregnant woman's eyes widened as the sharp barks of a German shepherd pierced the quiet airport terminal. His growls were low and menacing, carrying an edge of urgency, making everyone around her shift uncomfortably. The woman instinctively placed one hand over her bulging belly, taking a cautious step back, her face a mixture of confusion and fear. She was clearly startled by the dog's sudden aggression. She turned her head desperately, searching for someone to help, her voice trembling with concern. "Please, make him stop," she begged, glancing anxiously from officer to officer. But Rex, the highly trained K9, wasn't budging. His piercing eyes never left her. He remained perfectly still, standing tall, his stance alert, and his muscles tensed. Rex wasn't barking out of fear or aggression. He was trained to detect threats. His behavior indicated something wasn't right. There was more than just a simple disturbance at hand. Mark, Rex's handler, stood nearby, his gaze flicking between the dog and the woman. Over the years, he had learned to trust Rex's instincts. The dog had been trained for a variety of security operations, detecting drugs, explosives, and even weapons. But Mark had never seen him react in such a way before. What was it that Rex had detected that no one else had? Mark exchanged a quick, concerned look with the other officers who were watching the scene unfold. Rex wasn't acting on impulse. This was different. The dog had detected something dangerous. But what? Rex's growl deepened. His body was taut, ready to spring into action if necessary. It was as though the dog was convinced that the woman was hiding something dangerous. The woman's face was pale as she turned to the officers, her voice almost breaking. "I haven't done anything wrong, I swear. I'm just trying to get home to my family." She looked down at her belly protectively, as if seeking reassurance. The airport's security team was now fully engaged in the situation, aware that something serious was unfolding. A tall officer with a strong presence stepped forward. His tone was firm yet measured as he addressed the woman. "Ma'am, we need to ask you a few questions. Please come with us for further screening." His voice was calm but authoritative. The woman's hands shook as she clutched her stomach even tighter. She looked bewildered, pleading with them. "Why? I haven't done anything. Please, I just want to go home." Her voice trembled as she spoke, clearly frightened, but also confused. She had done nothing wrong in her mind. Why were they treating her like a criminal? The other passengers around them whispered nervously among themselves, some glancing at the woman, some at the barking dog. Some were suspicious, others concerned. It was hard to tell what was happening, but one thing was certain. The tension was palpable. Mark hesitated for a moment, torn between the woman's panic and his dog's insistence. Rex was still fixated on her, and Mark knew that the dog's training was highly specialized. If Rex sensed something, it was likely for a reason. Trusting his partner's instincts, Mark made the decision. "Take her to the screening room," he said with certainty. "We need to make sure there is no threat here." Two officers approached the woman with calm but firm gestures, guiding her toward a private security screening room. She was clearly distraught, her steps slow and unsteady as she walked, her hand still protectively pressed against her belly. "Please," she whispered, "I don't know what's going on. I just want to get out of here." Her voice broke slightly, filled with fear. Rex, however, did not calm down. He remained rigid by Mark's side, his body tense, still growling low as they entered the screening room. Mark's concern grew with every step. This wasn't normal. What was Rex sensing that no one else could see? Inside the room, the atmosphere felt heavy. One officer carefully rifled through the woman's bag, checking her belongings for anything unusual, while another prepared the body scanner. They needed to be thorough. Nothing could be left to chance. A female officer, noticing the woman's distress, softened her tone as she asked, "Do you have any medical conditions we should know about? Any history of complications with your pregnancy?" The woman shook her head, wiping away a tear that had escaped her eye. "No," she said quietly. "I'm just 7 months pregnant. I've had no problems." Her voice was shaky, as if she wasn't entirely convinced herself. She glanced up at the officer, her eyes pleading for understanding. "Please, I just want to go home to my family." Outside, Rex's agitation was growing. He whined loudly, scratching at the door, trying to get inside. Mark frowned. This wasn't right. The dog had been trained for years, and he was always alert, but this was beyond anything Mark had seen. The woman's innocent appearance didn't explain the severity of Rex's reaction. The tension in the room deepened as the woman suddenly gasped, her face twisted in pain. She reached for her stomach, her breathing shallow and labored. She whispered, "Something's wrong. Something's wrong with my baby." Mark's heart skipped a beat as the woman slumped into the nearest chair, clutching her belly with both hands. Sweat began to form on her forehead, and her face turned a ghostly white. "Please, help me," she pleaded, her voice almost breaking under the strain. "Get medical help. Now!" Mark barked, his heart pounding with urgency. The officers in the room scrambled to call for assistance, but time was critical. Mark opened the door for Rex, who immediately darted inside, his nose sniffing the air intensely. The dog's behavior had shifted from suspicion to outright distress. Rex's growl softened to a whine as he approached the woman, sitting beside her and looking up at Mark, his eyes pleading for action. The paramedics arrived swiftly, pushing their way into the room. One of them knelt beside the woman, checking her pulse and breathing. "She's in serious distress," the medic said. "She's not going into labor, but something is very wrong." Another paramedic, feeling her abdomen, grimaced. "This doesn't feel like labor at all. It's something else. We need to get her to the hospital immediately." Mark's mind raced. What was going on? Why had Rex reacted this way? One of the officers who had been scanning the woman's bag stopped cold, his face going pale. I think there's an internal rupture. This isn't just a medical issue. It's critical." The paramedics, now fully realizing the severity of the situation, moved quickly to lift the woman onto the stretcher. As they did, Rex barked once more, his tone more urgent now, his growl vibrating with an intensity Mark had never heard before. "Move!" one of the medics shouted. "She's in serious danger. Get her to surgery immediately." Rex continued to growl softly, following the stretcher as it was wheeled toward the ambulance. His sharp eyes never left the woman, and for the first time in his career, Mark saw the dog act with a sense of urgency that surpassed mere training. Mark followed, his heart racing. He had no idea what was happening, but he trusted Rex. The dog had detected something. He had sensed the danger when no one else could. As the woman was loaded into the ambulance, she turned her head slightly, and with tears in her eyes whispered, "Thank you." She looked at Rex, her voice breaking. "Thank you for saving me." Rex's tail thumped lightly in response. Mark patted the dog's head. "Good job, buddy. You did great." The ambulance doors slammed shut, and it sped away, sirens wailing into the night. Mark and Rex stood there, watching until the vehicle disappeared around the corner. Mark felt a lump form in his throat. He couldn't help but wonder if they had done enough in time. Would she and her baby survive? Hours later, Mark sat in the hospital waiting room, Rex lying beside him, both of them silent as time dragged on. Nurses and doctors walked by, but Mark didn't move. He was waiting for news. Finally, a doctor came through the door, his face initially unreadable. Mark's heart skipped a beat as the doctor approached. "She made it," the doctor said, his voice calm but filled with relief. "Both the mother and the baby are stable now." Mark exhaled in relief, his shoulders slumping as the tension finally left his body. How bad was it? There was an undiagnosed uterine rupture, the doctor explained. It was life-threatening. If she had waited any longer to get help, she and the baby would have died. The doctor shook his head, still astonished. "I don't know how your dog knew, but he saved both of their lives." A nurse stepped forward, holding a folded piece of paper. She handed it to Mark, her expression soft. It was a note from the woman. "Tell the dog he's my angel," the note read. Mark's heart swelled with emotion. He looked down at Rex, who was now lying calmly at his feet, his eyes alert but soft. Rex had done more than just his job. He had saved a life, and for that, Mark would forever be grateful. As Mark stood up, he bent down and gently patted the dog's head. "You did it, buddy. You really did it." The story wasn't just one of security. It was a tale of loyalty, instinct, and the unspoken bond between a man and his dog. If this heartwarming story touched you, don't forget to show your support. Hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories like this. Tap the notification bell so you never miss out on the next uplifting tale. Join us in celebrating the heroes, both human and canine, who make the world a better place.